The birth of our noble Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the most important event in the history of mankind, and Allah Almighty has mentioned it in detail in the Quran, telling us about its miraculous nature. It was definitely not just an ordinary birth. Rather, there were many signs and portents pointing towards this great event. Some of these miracles were witnessed by Muslims, while some were experienced by other nations. So here are 7 amazing miracles that happened at the time of the birth of our beloved Prophet. First, the vision of Lady Amina. When Lady Amina Ra, the mother of the Prophet, was carrying him in her womb, she had a very strange and beautiful dream. In her dream, she saw a very bright and radiant light that originated from her and spread all around, illuminating the palaces of Syria. Then the light returned back to her and enveloped her completely. When she woke up from her dream, she felt an immense joy in her heart. Later, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was born, he became the light of the entire humanity. So this dream was a sign showing the excellence of the mission that he will have in the future. Second, the collapse of Kisra's palace. At the time of the Prophet's birth, there was a Persian emperor called Kisra. He ruled over a vast empire that stretched from Central Asia to the Arabian Peninsula. His palace was known for its grandeur and beauty, especially because it had 14 towers that reached up to the skies. These towers symbolized the height and strength of his empire. However, on the night of the Prophet's birth, something incredible happened. 4 of the 14 towers of Caesar's palace collapsed and came crashing down. This was a clear sign from Allah Almighty that the reign of the Persians was coming to an end and their power and glory were about to be diminished. And indeed, soon after, their empire was conquered by the Muslims under the leadership of Hazrat Umar. Third, the fire of Persia went out. The Persians were followers of a religion called Zoroastrianism, which was based on the teachings of a prophet named Zohar. One of their core beliefs was in the concept of a sacred fire that had been burning for over 1,000 years. They believed that this fire was sent from God, and it represented purity, enlightenment, and immortality. Zoroastrians would gather around this fire and pray to God, and they considered it a symbol of their faith. However, on the night of the Prophet's birth, this fire went out suddenly without any apparent reason. For Zoroastrians, this was a devastating event, because it meant that their connection to God was broken. They didn't know what to do or how to fix it. This event was a clear sign from Allah Almighty that their religion was no longer valid and that their time was over. Fourth, the drying up of Lake Sawa. In ancient times, there was a famous lake called Lake Sawa, which was located in a region called Iraq. It was considered a sacred lake because people believed that it had healing powers, and it was associated with various miracles and legends. People from all over the region would come to this lake to seek healing and to perform rituals and ceremonies. They would also build temples and shrines around the lake to honor their gods and goddesses. Among the people of the book, Christians were the ones who revered this lake the most. They believed that Jesus Christ himself had performed miracles there, and they made it a place of pilgrimage and worship. However, on the night of the Prophet's birth, this lake dried up completely and turned into a salty desert. All the water vanished without a trace, and nobody could explain what had happened. This was a clear sign from Allah Almighty that their faith was false and that their gods and goddesses were unable to protect them. Fifth, strange, heavenly light. On the night of the Prophet's birth, strange light and radiance appeared around Makkah and in the surrounding areas. People saw a bright glow that filled their night and illuminated the darkness as if it were daytime. They couldn't believe their eyes, because they had never seen anything like it before. It was not like a normal sunset or a morning sunrise. It was something more powerful and majestic that seemed to come from the heavens themselves. This was a clear sign from Allah Almighty that something extraordinary had happened and that it was a momentous occasion that would change the course of history. It was a way for Allah to draw attention to Makkah and show that this city was the birthplace of a great event. Sixth, the Seerat, and blocked from the heavens. The jinn and devils were very curious and mischievous creatures who loved to cause trouble for humans. They would often eavesdrop on conversations and try to steal secrets. They would also tempt humans to sin and lead them astray. But on the night of the Prophet's birth, something unexpected happened. The shaitan and devils were suddenly blocked from going up to the heavens. They couldn't fly freely anymore. They struggled and tried to break through the barrier, but it was impossible. They were trapped on earth and couldn't get any news from the heavens. This was a clear sign from Allah Almighty that the birth of the Prophet ﷺ was such a significant event that it had shaken the spiritual realm and disrupted the balance of power. Seventh, the idols in the Kaaba fell down. At that time, the Kaaba was full of idols, and people used to worship them as gods. They believed that these idols had supernatural powers and could grant them wishes and protect them from harm. However, on the night of the Prophet's birth, something unbelievable happened. Many of the idols inside the Kaaba toppled, face down, as if they were bowing down before something. People were shocked and terrified by this event because they had never seen anything like it before. They could not understand why the idols had fallen or what it meant for their religion and their beliefs. This was a clear sign from Allah Almighty that their faith was false and that their gods and goddesses were powerless against the truth. In addition to these signs, there were many others that happened in different parts of the world. For example, many scholars and monks of the people of the book received dreams and divine indications about the coming of the final Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They saw signs and heard voices that told them to prepare for the arrival of a great messenger who would change the course of history. Some of them even claimed to have seen the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in their dreams or visions, and they knew that he was the one that Allah had promised them. These signs were important because they showed that the birth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not only a miracle in itself, but it was also the beginning of a chain of miracles that would continue throughout his life. His birth was a turning point in the history of humanity, and it marked the beginning of a new era guided by the message of Islam. These are just a few of the many miracles that happened at the time of the birth of our Prophet sallallahu. These miracles were not only meant to signify the importance of his birth, but also to serve as a reminder of the power and majesty of Allah Almighty. They were a testament to the fact that Allah chose our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to be the final messenger and guide for all of humanity. Now we would like to ask you a question. Which of these miracles did you find the most amazing? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. We would also like to take this opportunity to invite you to subscribe to our channel and to turn on notifications so that you want to miss out on any of our future videos. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, as it really helps us to reach more people. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.